know that consultants could follow suit and look at balloting for strike action. Do you think that is the right thing to do?
Well, I'd say I'm here on behalf of the Doctors Association. We're a lobby group, we're not a union. I haven't actually seen anything particularly about consultants going on strike at the moment, but I think the working conditions are very, very real. I mean, the BMA surveyed, I think, more than 4,500 junior doctors last year, basically, and found that nearly half were struggling to afford the rent or mortgage. So the way staff are being treated is very real, and it isn't just about money. I would say just the working conditions as well. We are one of the most under-doctored countries of similar European countries as well, basically, and people are really stretched to absolute breaking point, as I find myself this week.
Well, tell us what happened.
Well, I was on your show about a week ago saying I was, predicting that things are going to get worse a couple of weeks. I didn't expect it to be quite so personal. That a friend of mine had acute appendicitis, had her operation delayed because of the whole kind of system failure, basically, and then ended up being admitted with a paralytic ileus, had to spend about 7 hours stretched across a couple of chairs in emergency department, and no criticism of the care. The staff were doing the best they could in a very, very stretched environment. But, every aspect of the system felt broken. So, initially it was thought that she had a urinary tract infection, couldn't find a prescribing pharmacist in Worcestershire because there appeared to be lots of locum pharmacists who didn't have prescribing skills, which is about as much use as a chocolate teapot.
Gosh,
I could go on.
Do go on. Just share as many experiences as possible, because I think for people who aren't using, lots of people are crossing their fingers at the moment and saying, I hope I don't have to use the NHS at the moment because it's broken. But for people who are, their experiences are so valuable.
Absolutely, and I thought, not many of us have a consultant mate that can come into ED and put a hand on their abdomen to make sure they haven't got an acute abdomen. That was the reality at the time, because I was worried how long it was going to take a surgeon to have a look at her. And in fact, what should have happened in a working system, someone who's clearly had recent surgery, they should have gone directly to a surgical assessment unit, not to an emergency department. But just the whole system is stretched to breaking point. And, I very much feel like a witness rather than a victim. If you are a member of staff, a junior doctor, a nurse working in that environment, having to do that, hour after hour, day after day, that is not a pleasant working environment. And people just say, enough of this, I'm going somewhere else, And ditto, the care workers issue, if they can get paid better in Oldie, then they will go and work there. And, in fact, the Health Foundation looked at this and looked at the amount that we spend on healthcare compared to, 14 countries in the EU. We spend up to 20% less than the other, EU 14, basically. So this is a choice that we as a society need to make. We have treatments which we know work, and I'm involved in neurology and stroke, for example, and obviously the treatment of that has changed massively in the last 20 years. So, thrombectomy is an example where, that's the bells and whistles I think you referred to earlier from a GP, would be that someone gets transferred to a regional neuroscience centre, has the clot extracted, and I had a patient like that who's done extremely well. Now, 10, 15 years ago, that patient probably would have died,
And that's interesting, because that's kind of